Smart24, driving business.
Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. You're watching Smart24 TV and we drive your business. Of course, Happy New Year, wherever you're watching us from. And I hope you had yourselves a wonderful New Year's day. And the 31st, of course, I know many of you are still a little bit drowsy from, of course, the overnight prayers, those of you who went to pray, and those of you who went out to actually have fun. And I hope you managed to get to cross into the year 2023 alive and kicking. And of course, we thank God for that gift of life, that we are still breathing and can currently still count our blessings. Thank you so much for watching Smart24 TV. And it's a brand new year with, of course, new stuff. We talk business, of course, and we do mean business here at Smart24 TV, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We've got you covered, and we've got you covered on the latest business content across the continent. Now, of course, this is Financial Market, and of course, this is going to be a new edition of the Financial Market Show. And we are going to have an impactful show in this new year, 2023. I hope you're excited as much as I am. And of course, I will be getting you into the New Year's trading and what's trending currently in the different segments of the markets. Remember to also follow us on Twitter at Smart24 TV. You can also follow me personally at Anthony Sebale on Twitter as well, and on Instagram at Sebale95. And you will catch, of course, all the shows as they come to you. Or those of you on our YouTube live stream, you're doing a great job. You can also always watch there at Smart24 TV live. Remember to also leave a comment, and if you are trading and you're participating in the different market segments, please give us feedback. How is the market so far? How is the year 2023 already taking you so far? Of course, for me and my team here, we are very glad, and we are going to be giving you updates every single day on what's happening. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, we must give you updates. Now, Altex East Africa is one company you must not forget about in the year 2023. Last year, they did bring you a new initiative. That is the Zabu initiative, where you can now buy treasury bonds across East Africa using your mobile phone. And you can transfer money from mobile money onto the exchange seamlessly by simply dialing *292#. Now, what will happen when you do this? You will have to register. Of course, registration is with your identification number, your national identification number. Once you register with Altex East Africa, the rest is history. You can buy, you can sell, and be able to enjoy the best interests on all treasury bonds across East Africa. Doesn't matter where you are in East Africa, in Kenya, in Uganda, or in Tanzania, you can be able to buy these particular instruments across all these three countries. They're planning, of course, on this year to expand and get into the different other countries and spheres of investment, but they do have as well an exchange traded fund, and this is where you can invest in different treasury bonds at the same time with the amount of money that you're willing to put aside for investment. And Altex East Africa is telling you you can do something new. The markets open at 15 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. and close at exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. That is East Africa Standard Time. Altex doing something new. Now, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I'm here to give you a little bit of what happened on the 30th of December. That is, of course, the last day of trading for the year 2022. Now, remember, 2022 has been a very rough year for the financial markets. And looking back, generally speaking, the markets haven't been so much, something to actually be proud of here in East Africa. But this is not an East African problem or a Ugandan problem. It has been a global problem. We started the year back in January. Things were not so good as, of course, COVID was still around. And a few economies had started recovering. A few sectors of the economies had started recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic shocks. But just as we thought we were out of the COVID-19 pandemic, then Russia and Ukraine began their war. And that war has been raging now for the past couple of months. And that has, disrupted so many things in our economy, including the supply chain disruption that has seen very many companies, especially in terms of logistics, those companies that depend on logistics suffer so much. We saw the wheat industry go down, of course, as Putin was putting a ban on exports from Russia. And we saw, of course, Ukraine as well, which is a big contributor to the wheat industry, not able to produce wheat anymore, which is something that frustrated us. Then the oil and gas prices as well started going up because of the high demand and low supply that was there at the moment. Because as we were coming from the COVID-19 pandemic, we realized slowly that the demand that was coming on the market was not readily supplied. We were not prepared for this kind of demand because we were locked down, we were in our homes, and everybody went back to work. And it was a mess. Trust me, it wasn't a very, very simple time. But nevertheless, we progressed, and successfully now we are in a new year. What should you expect in this new year? I'm going to talk about the US stocks in a very short time, but you will realize that last year was one of the worst years, for example, for the S&P 500. This has seen its worst loss on the year-to-date performance since 2008 financial crisis. That's how bad it has been for some of the market players there. And of course, whatever happens in the marketplace comes on the stock market, or actually the stock market is just a little bit of a picture, or a little bit of a sneaking into what's happening in the real world. Because when you look at the stock markets, you look at the bond markets, it tells you what's going on in the economy. And that's why these markets are very, very critical at this moment. And of course, as we begin a new year, 2023, we want to start with fresh goals. We want to know, what do you plan to invest in the year 2023 rather. Remember, unit trusts did quite well in the last year. Will they maintain that performance this year? Of course, we are also yet to get to see the reports from the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda, talking about the fourth quarter earnings there on the unit trusts, on the stock market, and the like. Last year was also marked with certain few controversies that have still lingering in the minds of investors. For example, the Umeme failing to renew their concession agreement, which they had for 25 years since 2004. And Umeme will be exiting, actually. Now it's no longer rumor, in 2025. So what are all these going to make of the market this year? Airtel Uganda was supposed to list in 2022 as well, unable to list because of the current market conditions. What is the way forward? Will they list in this year? Should we expect an initial public offer in the year 2023? All that and more is what we should be looking at the moment. But at the moment, as an investor, looking at your portfolio, try to see where you are trying to make money and whether you can actually make progress when it comes to trading in this market. Of course, with the bonds, with the stock markets, you have so many options. So you can always utilize them and make the most of them. My name is Anthony, and let's get to dive into the market performances here for the markets on Friday. Now, Friday was the last day of 2022 in terms of trading, and basically getting to look at the Uganda Stock Exchange tradings. The day was marked with very much average performance, but little surprises coming in from Umeme with over 1.4 million shares, and MTN Uganda with over 22,001 shares. The companies that participated in trading were just three of these. I just mentioned MTN Uganda, Umeme, as well as Uganda Clays was the shocker for the day. Uganda Clays has been silent for quite some time, but managed to actually pull off some trading last Friday. Looking at the top gainers, we just had 2 gainers and over 6 losers. Uganda Clays Limited leading the gainers. Now, if you remember, Uganda Clays is one of the oldest, matter of fact, the oldest company on the exchange in as far as listing is concerned. The company got listed, let's get to see, about in the year 2000. And this was, to be particular, on the 18th of January. That is over 22 years of listing on the Uganda Stock Exchange for Uganda Clays. The company's stock currently stands at exactly 15.5 billion Ugandan shillings, and this represents about 0.074% of the entire equities market on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Currently, this makes the company the 15th most valuable on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Looking at this, the company has about 900 million shares. That's a very wonderful number there, 900 million shares that are floated on the exchange currently. And just of last Friday, they traded about 3,200 shares and had about 55,040 Ugandan shillings, and closed the day with a market price of 17.20 Ugandan shillings. This was after a 2.20 gain from 15 shillings to 17.2 Ugandan shillings. Now, currently, this represents about 14.67% gain in the company's price. However, talking about 2022, the company began the year with about 13.0 Ugandan shillings. And on average, from 13.0 to 17.2 at the end of the year, this is currently a 32.3% increase in value, making the company the second most best performer in terms of year-to-date performance on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Shareholders can also be very optimistic about Uganda Clays, which has accrued about 15% over the last 4 weeks, which is the second best on the Uganda Securities Exchange as well. In as far as trading, the company is the 6th most traded on stock in the past 3 months. And this is, of course, we're talking about 29th September to the 30th of December 2022. Uganda Clays in this period has had about a volume of 905,665 traded shares, valued at exactly 13.6 million Ugandan shillings over the period. Now, with an average of about 14,376 shares traded per session, the company still holds the 6th most traded on position stock. And so that gives you the picture of Uganda Clays Limited. Remember, Uganda Clays is also one of those companies that have consistently been issuing or giving out dividends, of course, because it's a profitable company. And for starters, this is a company that is engaged in the deal of supply, they deal in supply of clay products in the housing and construction industry, including max pans, roofing tiles, and the like. The company's main business is the production and sale of these products, including the production of roofing tiles, walling, and other building materials, as well as decorative products. With a reputation of being producers of high-quality products and using a dedicated, stable labor force, Uganda Clays boasts of better raw materials than many of its competitors today, and consequently, its products are highly competitive on the market. That is Uganda Clays Limited for you. He was the biggest gainer for the last day of trading for the year 2022, with over 40% gain to 17.20 Ugandan shillings. Jubilee Holdings as well came in the second place and was the second gainer and the last gainer for today. And Jubilee Holdings gained about 2.17% of their equities market there. Now, Jubilee Holdings Limited is a Kenyan insurance company with, of course, its incorporation in 1937 in East Africa. The company's operations in Uganda, however, were just revived in 1992. Today, Jubilee Holdings holds about 353 billion Ugandan shillings worth of shares that are listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, this makes it the 10th most valuable on the market. 2020 wasn't easy for Jubilee Holdings, with the company almost having zero participation in trading. They did not have any impact as well on their stock price. They did have a decline and they have not been able to redeem themselves. Currently, the company's shares are at 5,895.68 Ugandan shillings after Friday's 2.17% gain. On the losing side, we did have Centum Investments lose, unfortunately, in the last day of trading for the year 2022 after a 3.22% loss at exactly Centum lost to 2.84% to come to exactly 247.26 Ugandan shillings, whereas KCB lost a 3.22% value and closed at 1,144.54. NMG, or Nation Media Group, lost about 2.45%, down to 491.81 Ugandan shillings, and Equity Bank Limited at a 0.95% loss closed the day with a market price of 1,361.12. Kenya Airways lost about 0.95% and closed at 115.21 Ugandan shillings. Mainly these are cross listings, and I told you, as I've always mentioned, that these usually lose and gain not depending on how they are, how their stocks are being demanded or how they are being supplied on the market, but basically because of factors on their primary stock exchange, in this case the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And so these movements, of course, happen due to those particular outside factors, such as, of course, the exchange rates, their stock prices on their primary stock exchanges, which of course have more volatility because they do a lot more trading on their primary stock exchanges. And then also when you look at the sometimes the demand and supply on their primary stock exchange also does affect what happens here at the Uganda Stock Exchange, where they are actually cross-listed. After the day's trading, of course, there was a little bit of impact on the all-share index as well as the local company index. As I mentioned, Wumeme recorded the highest volume for the day, over 1.47 million traded shares on the company. And MTN Uganda recorded about 22,001 shares, and Uganda Clays in the third position at about 3,200 shares as well. Regarding the performance of the index, the all-share index dropped about 7.2 points, and that was a 0.59% loss to close at exactly 1,212.58 points, representing a one-week gain of 1.73% and a four-week loss of about 0.68%. Yet an overall year-to-date loss currently of about 14.65% is still what the day ended like there on the 30th of December for the all-share index, which is the benchmark index for the Uganda Securities Exchange. On the other hand, the local company index, which tracks the aggregate performance of the local stocks, increased by 0.03%. Thank God for the Uganda Clay stock that appreciated, and this was reaching up to 272 points. for the day, making it a 1-week gain of 0.72% and a 4-week gain of 1.53%. Yet a year-to-date loss of 16% is still currently being counted on the local company index. That's the trading from the Uganda Securities Exchange. I hope you had a wonderful 2022 trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Hope now to see you now in this new year. We are starting a new chapter, a new page. But of course, there are some lessons we have to take and pick from 2022 if we are to have a better 2023. And those are on an individual level, also the regulatory level from the regulators, the Capital Markets Authority, as well as from the individual participants in the market. My name is Anthony. We are taking a very short break. When we return, we get to look at the Nairobi Stock Exchange as well on their last day of trading for the year 2022. And of course, we cross over to other stock exchanges. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Smart24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Sebo oba nnyabo olilandira odi oba olina ekifo ekipangisibwa URA ekujjukiza okwewandiisa ofune ennamba ey'omusolo eyitibwa tax identification number abasinga gye mumanyi nga TIN. Ennamba eyo ejja kuyamba okwanjula n'okusasulirako omusolo. Tusima balandiroodi abaamala edda okwewandiisa n'okusasula omusolo gwabwe. Era tukubiriza abo bonna abatannaba kwewandiisa bakozese akaseera kano beewandiise. Tukolere wamu okulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Smart24, driving business.
Welcome back to the show, and thank you so much for watching Smart24 TV, where we drive your business. And I want to thank you, of course, for watching. There are people who are ardent viewers of this show online. I see Samali here, Samali Nabagala. Thank you so much for watching and for always keeping track of what is happening in the financial markets world. We are so much grateful. Now, if you're like Samali and you want to invest today, you should know about Altex East Africa. Altex East Africa is the #1 private stock exchange in Uganda. You can be able to buy and sell treasury bonds across East Africa with simply a click on your phone. You can dial *292# and be able to register with Altex East Africa. This, of course, is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, and they give you the best interest rates in the land. Remember, you get an annual interest. Where else can you find that in Uganda? Over 14% interest or return on your investment. What are you doing with that money in that box? So definitely check out Altex East Africa. The markets are open right now. They open at 8 a.m. and close at 15 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. East Africa, Altex doing something new. Now let's get to the land of Uhuru and see, rather now Ruto in Kenya, and get to look at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And that was on their last day of trading on Friday. Now, Nairobi had mixed reactions or feelings when you look at their trading on the last day. In aggregate, about 48 companies participated in trading, and when you look at the current data from the All-Share Index, which is their benchmark index tracking the 65 companies that are listed there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, it appreciated by about 0.50 points. Thank God for the participation of companies like Equity Group Holdings, Safaricom, as well as Kenya Power and Lighting Company. Now, well, amongst the 48 participants, we had 24 gainers, just about 24 gainers and 18 losers on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And Kapchora Tea Company led the gainers this time round. Yes, the tea company did lead the gainers on the last day of trading on the 30th of December. This was with a 9.95% increase in their stock price and closing at 113.25 Kenyan shillings. The company topped the table there at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, if you don't know about Kapchora Tea Company, this is, of course, a company engaged in the cultivation and growth and sale of tea, both here in East Africa and abroad. The company, as per March 31st, 2002, had about 661,000 hectares of land, and that has multiplied with time. And of course, seeing the company being listed on the biggest stock exchange in East Africa doesn't, of course, make things any worse. Now, Kapchora Tea Company Limited has about 386 million Kenyan shillings worth of shares that are listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. This represents about 0.045% of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange. Currently, their stock price of 113.25 Kenyan shillings is as a result of their 10.25 Kenyan shillings appreciation last Friday. And of course, that was the last day of trading for the Nairobi Stock Exchange. They did have about 100 shares traded and a total turnover of about 11,325 Kenyan shillings. Now, how was 2022 basically for Kapchora Tea Company? Looking at their year-to-date performance, they began the year with 95.50 Kenyan shillings, and currently, when you count, of course, and compare that with the 113.5 Kenyan shillings, they have gained about 8% over the last 1 year, rather about 18% over the last 1 year. And in the last 1 month, they have also accrued about 8%. Now, that makes the company very attractive, right? Now, let's look at the company's participation as well in the trading. Now, on the flip side, the company hasn't been that active with 54th position in terms of trading in the last 3 months. And on the Nairobi Stock Exchange since 28th of September to the 30th of December 2022, there's been a total volume of just about 21,400 shares that were recorded on the exchange over this period. So it's kind of average, and I think it puts me off a little bit. And when you look at a company like this one with all this appreciation in value, but still it's not offering the big volumes that we want to see on the market. So would I say Kapchora Tea Company is tradable in 2023? Yes and no. Of course, depending on the nature of investment you want to make. If you are a speculative investor and you want to come in and buy and sell quickly, I don't think this is your stock. But if you are a long-term investor, I would definitely buy you into this stock, because these are companies that are going to grow. They have been there for a while, and tea is not about to stop being one of the chief exports of Kenya. So definitely, I would say yes, you can consider yourself as a trader on the Nairobi Stock Exchange over Kapchora Tea Company. It's a promising company. In the second position, we had Flame Tree Group Holdings. Now, Flame Tree Group Holdings gained about 9.09%. Looking at their stock currently, they have about 192 million Kenyan shillings worth of shares that are floated on the exchange, representing about 0.0097% of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange equities market. Of course, this is a quite small margin, makes the company the 56th most valuable out of the 65 companies that are currently floated on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. On Friday, they gained about 0.09 Kenyan shillings on their small price and closed at exactly 1.08 Kenyan shillings per share, which was a 9.09% gain. Currently, they are counting about 178 million traded, floated shares on the Nairobi Securities Exchange and a market capitalization of over 192 million Kenyan shillings. Now, Flame Tree Group Holdings did not have a very nice 2022. Let's get to look at their history here. The company's beginning price was 1.26 Kenyan shillings. And remember, when we're counting in Kenyan shillings, for Ugandans, you must, of course, convert that to the Ugandan shillings by multiplying by 31 or so Ugandan shillings. And when you look at this starting price, comparing it with the current, the last price of the year, they have lost about 14.3%. That's a very significant amount, especially on such a company that is young and promising and could, of course, be a very worrying figure there for the investors in this company. But also, in the last 1 month, December, they lost 5% of their value. So all the year, investors haven't made money off this company. So this is not a good company for you, my friend, regardless of the fact that it gained on the last day of trading for the year. I wouldn't definitely advise you to go for this one. However, they are currently the 40th most traded on stock on the Nairobi Stock Exchange over the past 3 months. In the last 3 months of 2022, they have traded a total volume of about 242,200 shares currently on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Of course, with an average volume of close to 3,844 traded shares that have been traded per every trading session on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, that makes a company an average company. I wouldn't put it in the big boys, but I wouldn't also put it in the small cap companies. So if you are a trader who is trading long term and you have a few savings, you don't want to put in a lot of money, yeah, you can try Flame Tree Group Holdings there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, moving on to the third biggest gainer for the day, Car and General Kenya. Of course, this is our famous one here, gaining about 9.08% for the day. Sasini Tea and Coffee as well gained about 6.9% on their trading price at the Nairobi Stock Exchange as well on the last day. Looks like the tea and coffee companies had a good time, or a much better time than most of the other sectors on the Nairobi Stock Exchange generally this year, rather last year, as well as on the last day of trading. But on the losing side as well, we did have some losers that have been consistently losing. Samia Africa came out last this time round with the total depreciation of about 8.7%. Samia had a very bad 2020 and rather 2022. And I'm hoping this year probably things could change as well. But as per the last day's trading for the year 2022, Samia Africa still has a lot actually to cover up for. With this loss of over 0.2 shillings, just over about 8.7% value there wiped away for the shareholders in Samia Africa. Now, as if that is not enough, the company began 2022, just like today, exactly 1 year ago, with 2.86%, rather 2.86 Kenyan shillings. And since then, they lost about 26.6% in 2022. Of course, this hasn't been, there's been a lot in Kenya. The Kenyan election had an impact on the on the stocks there in Kenya, but not this much. So I wouldn't still see very many investors this year going for Samia Africa. And the only thing that probably could make me close an eye for them is their trading. In 2022, the last quarter, they traded over about, let's see, 849,000 shares. And these currently, when you look on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, make the company the 29th most traded on out of the 65 companies. So there are at least 28 better companies, but still in the 29th position, it beats many by a margin of participation. So we could close an eye for that, but I wouldn't definitely ask you to go all in for the Samia Africa stock on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, especially in the current market conditions. Away from Samia Africa, Uchumi Supermarket lost about 8% value. Uchumi has also struggled with 2022, hoping this year will be better. Retail industry in Uganda, in Kenya rather, hasn't been good as well. Remember, Uchumi first closed here in Uganda, and you know what happened to it on the Uganda Stock Exchange, and now in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, it's still registering a very, very small market participation as well. So that is, of course, Uchumi Supermarket for you, and it gives you a picture of what the retail industry is currently looking like. Nairobi Business Ventures also lost about 7.14% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange, market share there. And currently, Nairobi Business Ventures also counts amongst the losers for 2022. And East African Cables lost about 4.55% as well, coming in the losing side of the Nairobi Securities Exchange there. Safaricom did record the highest volume of about 14 million traded shares on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. It was followed by Equity Group Holdings at 3.08 million shares. And we had about Kenya Power and Lighting Company, about 603,200 shares. And TransCentury East Africa, about 297,800 shares. Regarding the performance of the NSE market index, the benchmark index, the NSE All Share Index, climbed 0.50 to about, 127.47 points. That's closing the markets last Friday there. And that is the performance from Nairobi Stock Exchange as well. The day's volumes improved as well, 226%, and the turnover as well improved 316%, but a 6% decline is currently still being registered in the number of deals. Current market capitalization is 1.98 trillion Kenyan shillings on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to get to cross over to the US stocks and get to look at what, of course, the average performance of the US stocks has been in the year 2022. Now, the stocks closed lower across the board on Friday to finish off their worst year of the US stock market since the financial crisis in 2008 on average. When the year's final closing bell on Friday rang, the S&P or the Standard & Poor's 500 and the Dow were each off by 0.2%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq fell a more modest 0.1%. With Friday's losses, the S&P 500 fell 19.4% in 2022, and its largest calendar year decline since the 38% drop in 2008, closing at 3,839.50 points on Friday. The S&P 500 now stands at the same level as of March 2021. Nasdaq Composite Index dropped 33% and stands at the same level as of July 2020. The Dow, meanwhile, fell a comparably modest 9% in 2022, while the bond market suffered the worst year in modern history. So generally things were not good on the US markets as well, generally speaking, across 2022. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching. I am glad you joined us today. Please continue to watch and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and get to follow us on Twitter at Smart24 TV. My name is Anthony. I wish you a very blessed new year. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.